Okay, so this is how the builder's kit comes to you. I'll separate this. Alright, so now the emitter screws into the ring section. But with the thread on there, this emitter's not going to spin. So there's a couple options that we have. Number one, and the most easiest option, is if you are doing a V2 and you're planning on using Trooper Trent's Gaffers tape adapter, this is probably the easiest option for everybody. What I did originally, before I got some new found evidence, is I used to just hack the thread section off of the emitter, okay? But there's a drawback to this. This is the emitter off my Legend. I had to machine a bushing to actually slide inside the neck, the wind vane, to keep it from moving back and forth because there was too much space in between that and the rod we're going to use. But if we're using Trooper Trent's Gaffers tape adapter, it keeps the emitter straight. So for the majority of people, if you're using the Gaffers tape adapter, you can just cut this threaded section off and the Gaffers tape adapter will keep that in line and be able to spin freely. The more accurate version, and we just learned this from Brandon released some information, is that, and excuse me, I'm doing another Legend here and I have to paint this so it's not in its raw form. But I threw this on the lathe and I cut off the thread to it. So Brandon says originally the V2, well, as it is today, slides down into the wind vane like that, like so. And with that still here, you don't have to fabricate a bushing or whatnot to keep it straight. It stays right inside. So this is a more accurate version of the emitter. A lot of people don't have a lathe, so lobbing it off and using the Gaffers tape adapter would work just fine. But another thing you could do is put a bolt down it and put the bolt into the chuck of a drill, an electric drill, and spin the electric drill and try and file the thread off. That's another option you have. Or you can simply go to a machine shop and see how much it would cost you to, whoops, wrong one, to cut off the thread. And it doesn't take very long, so you might be able to find a shop who will do it for you right then and there. So those are our three options. You have the Gaffers tape adapter version, the accurate version, and then just keeping it solid and it won't spin. So let's break out the parts that we need, a couple little tools, and get to it. Okay, so the first thing we need to get is a drive shaft. This is going to go down up the ring section and into the emitter and lock everything together. So this is 5/16 rod, round stock rod that you can grab at Lowe's or Home Depot. Usually the tips are painted red, indicating 5/16 at Lowe's, so I don't know what it is at Home Depot. I'll actually try and find this online and link it here, the part number here. 5/16. If you can find 8mm, that's probably what the original prop is, because they were built in England, so I mean the UK, so it's metric over there. So if you find 8mm, that would work too. But over here we have 5/16, so that's as close as we can get. You couldn't tell by eye. Next we're going to need since I'm using a 5/16 rod, I'm using a 5/16 locking collar. I'll throw that down in the link over here. And that can be grabbed at any hardware store. Ironically, the Lowe's I go to frequently didn't have these, so I had to pick this up at Ace. And of course, an Allen wrench to match the grub screw and the locking collar. And if you're working on any V2, you're going to need a 1.5mm and a 2mm for the screws in the nipple and the screws in the emitter and the screws in the booster. And if you're going to cut the thread off, you're going to need some form of a hacksaw or a lathe. So now that's a basic rundown of the tools we need and the parts we use. So let's get to the assembly. So now the rod here, this is what I refer to as the drive shaft, or we could call this a push rod in this case, is 5 inches long. I cut this at 5 inches long, it gives us a little bit of play, because who's to say your locking coil you get is the same brand, and with it not being the same brand, it may not be the same width or everything, so my dimensions might be off. So if you cut yours at 5 inches and then follow the next steps, you should be very, very close to the same outcome. So 5 inches long, 5 inches long, and then we're going to take our mics here, turn the mics on, and I want you to go up this end here until you reach 15.5 millimeters or so, okay? And make a pencil line. That pencil line is going to be our stopping point. So we're going to take the collar, put the collar on our stopping point, and tie that down. You guys don't have any idea how hard this is to do this with the camera in front of you. Such a simple task. Alright, so now we got the push rod all assembled. Let's get to the next step. Okay, believe it or not, this is kind of difficult. So we're going to need some kind of dowel or something to help push the push rod through and up and hold it. So we're going to put the push rod down into the ring section. I'm going to use this to hold it in there. Then we're going to take the emitter that I have the thread shaved off, slide it down in there, and then we're going to take the, well, here we go, hitting the camera. Take the nipple, slide the nipple over, and we're going to need the set screws. I forgot to take the 3mm set screws out. So if you see now, the nipple, the push rod should be sticking out of the nipple just like it is today. And that's all because of that 15.5 millimeter measurement. So now let's put the lining up the nipple. One down. Turn her over. Again, these 3mm set screws are installed with a 1.5 mil Allen wrench. Okay, so now we're gonna use that to hold the push rod up in, allowing the push rod to stick out the nipple. We're gonna tighten the nipple to the push rod. And now we should have a spinning emitter. Yay! So it's not that difficult, but every time I get asked this question, I get asked a lot. I have to type this all out. And I should just edit, copy, paste it somewhere, but I don't. So I said, you know what, I'm going to make a video explaining how to do that. So that's how we're going to do it with the accurate emitter. The Gaffers tape adapter should be next. Okay, now, so we have the ring section here, we have the push rod, and we have the emitter with the thread cut off. So it's basically the same exact measurements, 5-inch long push rod, hook on the end, come up 15.5 millimeter, make a line, and then it should fit exactly like the other version. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Whoops, wrong one. Stinker. No, that was the right one. Hello. Could open my eyes next time. Trent still makes these Gaffers tape adapters. He doesn't carry them in his Etsy store, but if you message him, he will get you one. So there we go. I have the tape a little high on the Gaffers tape adapter, but she spins. So I hope this video explains how to get that emitter to spin with just a simple piece of round stock and a collar. It's fairly inexpensive and can be done in a couple of minutes. So again, I hope this video helped. If you have any more questions, you can grab me on the RPF as Halowax over there. So yeah, that's all to it. I look forward to the next video. You guys have a good night.